Hey guys, and welcome to my updated meta tier list. Of course, after the patch, some things has changed. And I want to tell you what I think about certain classes now, after the patch. We start off with Barbarian, and I think Barbarian profited the most from this patch. He's amazing now, instead of, what was he before? C tier? I think Barbarian is really playable now. I played the last 2 days a lot of Barbarian in solos. I don't feel like I'm as weak as I was before. You can run multiple builds now. I don't think the Badish buff was that necessary, but it of course helps Barbarian to utilize his kit more. Now you don't have to be afraid of rogues one-tapping you. You don't have to be afraid of fighters and clerics that much anymore because you deal tons of damage. The Warmer buff is also insane. I think the Warmer needed a buff a long time ago because it was just too weak. Of course, I'm a bit sad that Zweihander is not buffed as well, but I think Barbarian is a deserved amazing tier now. But didn't get a direct effect of this patch. I think he's still super strong or high amazing, because Cleric got nerfed, Warlock got nerfed, Fighter got a bit buffed. The only thing Bard really has to worry about is a Rogue, 2-tapping him out of Invis like every other class. But Bard is really fast, has a high DPS, he has a good kiting ability with his bow. I think he deserves nothing less than super strong or amazing. Bard has just an overall good kit. He has everything a class needs to survive in the dungeon, and I think Bard just profits from everything that is not a nerf on him, besides Rogue being giga strong. And if you are a good Bard player or just overly good, you can perform really well as Bard. I could be wrong on this one, but I still think Cleric is super strong. I don't think that those changes or nerfs directed or affected Cleric that much in solos. I think it's more a trios thing. You can't run frontline Cleric that efficiently anymore. I still think Judgment and Smite, or just Judgment and Spells, Cleric in general, also Spell Cleric, can see a lot of play in solos and can still be super strong. It's not as good as it was before the patch, but I think it's still super strong and it's still really good to play. I think after the patch, Fighter deserves amazing tier. It's just really dirty what they did to Weapon Mastery. That Fighter is basically a better ranger now, in my opinion at least. Also, he has so much movement speed, he can go plate with light foods and loose trousers and play speed Fighter, and you can get to 100 movement speed base. With sprint and weapons out, you could get up to max movement speed cap for a short period of time. I just think Fighter got a huge buff here, and we will see a lot more fighters in solos than we have ranger, and I think Ranger is nearly trash now. It's not because Ranger got nerfed or something, but I don't see what Ranger has for him right now. Fighter is just better because it can wear plate and do as much damage, if not more, as a Ranger from distance. The only thing Ranger really has for him is hunting traps, and if you want to play Ranger with hunting traps, you legit have to camp 1 or 2 rooms for the whole game, which is pretty boring, and I think most of you don't want to play like this. I just don't see where Ranger is any good in solos. I wouldn't say my dog would be stronger than him, but I don't think that Ranger is really on top of the food chain right now, in solos at least. Then we have Rogue, and I think Rogue just profited a bit from those nerfs on Cleric. I don't think the Fighter and the Barbarian buff affect him that much, because Rogue still 2 or 3 taps them, or doesn't fight them at all if he doesn't want to. I think Rogue is just the most superior class in solos, and if they don't change creep or the way ambush and hide works, I think Rogue will be on top of this chain for a long time. Yeah, Warlock is super strong as well. The Demon Edgy Warlock build is completely crazy. You can get up to 320 movement speed, and yeah, I don't know, I think it's Shadow Touch, the perk, which make them heal so much with their daggers, I'm not really sure. But the healing on Warlock in melee, while being in demon form with a dagger, is completely insane. It's legit a Barbarian blood exchange, but not as a skill, just as a kit in its own. And I think Warlock in demon form is just high, super strong right now. I think they can take on any class besides a Rogue. Now we have Druid, and I see this from a Barbarian perspective, where I'm really biased. I feel like Druid is such a stupid class. There's not many ways to play him. You mostly see bear, that means strength druids right now. You can't kill them as a barbarian. If they don't want to fight you, they just run away. They have their Phantomize in their kit. They one-tap every class on bear if they go full strength. They have high HP, they have high mobility, they can CC you, they can summon their trend. I just think Druid is a really broken class against some characters. Against some may not be as strong because you can shoot them with a bow in red form. I don't know, I just hate to play against strength druids. I don't know, I probably died the most to rogues and druids. I nearly never died to any other class. I just think druid is maybe giga good against barbarian. I don't know much about other classes, but I get against fighter and barbarian, just an amazing good class, and I hate to play against it. Then we have our last one, and as I already said in the last video, I think not a lot has changed for wizard. I think my dog would be stronger than him. It's still only the bonk wizard, but I think he's inferior to any other class on this list. Barbarian can just overrun him with Iron Will. Fighter can shoot him with a longbow and probably free tap him. Bard can kite him with his bow. Druid can just jump on his face and probably one tap him. Ranger can out DPS and range him. Warlock just runs on him in demon form and is 10 times faster. Cleric, yeah, he could probably win against Cleric, but not against caster Cleric. He loses at that battle as well. And Rogue just one taps him. I think you won't see that many wizards, and it's for a good reason. I think just all your dogs would be stronger than any wizard. And that's it for my solo tier list. I think it's pretty good. That's pretty accurate. That's how I see it. And let's hop right into the duo and then to the trio tier list. So I played duos a lot as a barbarian, and I think he's amazing. Also, as he is in solos, I think just the buffs did a lot for him. He can play really good as a frontline now with a cleric. You could also play him with a rogue. He's a good solo character that can play on his own as well. I just think barbarian feels 10 times better than it did before the patch. I don't know why. It could be because of the Badish buffs, but I just think Barbarian makes a really good character right now. He's in a good spot, and I say this as a biased Barbarian player. Next up we have Bard, and Bard is playable but not insane for me in duos. Like I said in my first meta tier list, Bard just loses some of his power in duos, I feel like, because yeah, he's just either a solo class where he can completely focus on himself, or a trio class where he can play backline and just peel and hold for his team. I think in duos he just does not do what he's supposed to do. Cleric, of course, in duos super strong, not only as a frontline as he was before. Before you could see Cleric in solos, duos and trios only running plate and frontlining. I think now Cleric is really good as a caster with a Warlock, or as healing Cleric with a Barbarian, or any frontline or anything that plays in front of him. I just think Cleric is again a bit more where he's supposed to be as a spellcaster or as a healer, not as a tanky frontline that can W key everyone. Fighter isn't playable but not insane, solely for the reason that I think he's a bit worse than Barbarian is. I think every Barbarian can 1v1 a fighter in melee, especially if he has a Warmaul to fight the fighter. And you could put him in amazing maybe, but I just think he's a bit worse than Barbarian, and that's why he deserves playable but not insane. But I think he's still pretty good, and you could definitely see more fighters right now. Ranger goes in duos, same as he does in solos. I just think he's an I'm trash tier because he has nothing for him, only hunting traps. He has nothing fighter can't do or any other class can't do, besides Barbarian maybe, because Barbarian has no ranged option. But I don't think he's as good as in duos as he might be in trios. But yeah, I don't think he deserves any more than I'm trash. He's just inferior to any other class. Rogue goes into amazing behind Barbarian. Still a really good class, high DPS, high agility, can still make space for his team, can flank the other teams, can get behind them without being seen. Still a really good class, but as I said in the other tier list before, Rogue wants to play on his own. Rogue doesn't want to be with a teammate. It's kinda just distracting for him. He wants to make his own plays, he wants to go his own ways, he wants to sneak up on himself. And I think that's why he's only amazing, not super strong. Then we have Warlock, and Warlock is super strong in duos, trios and solos. Maybe in duos and trios more than in solos. I feel like Warlock's nerf just didn't affect him that much. You can still build any build successfully, and yeah. Then we have Wizard, and I think Wizard is playable but not insane in duos. Now you can use his kit a bit more. You don't need to go Staff Mastery and Bonk build. You have someone in frontline you can play with. You can play duo Wizard as well now, but I don't know, I don't think he's that good. I think he's definitely playable. If you're a good wizard, you will see a lot of success. In general, he's playable but not insane. He has a still good damage ranged and skill expression. That means you can outplay people if you're good at it. But yeah, I think nothing more than playable but not insane for wizard in duos. Then we have Druid, and I don't know, Druid is giga strong in solos, but I think in duos he's nothing more than playable but not insane. If you rush someone that has a Druid in his team, Most of the time he can't do nothing. He just stands there. Maybe it's about the Druid players, but I feel like Druids do nothing if you push them in duos. Your teammate pushes with you at the same time. You're basically 2v1 because you hit the Druid once and he goes into Phantomize and you just run down his teammate. I don't know, I feel like Druid wants to play on his own. Otherwise, your team is kind of fucked. In solos, he definitely deserves a high place, but in duos and trios, every time I played against Druid, it felt like they're basically just running away and let their team behind, doing nothing for them besides healing, which Cleric does better. That's my duo tier list. Let's hop into trios. Again, we have trio tier list. Barbarian is amazing. I think with the Cleric changes and nerfs, we won't see frontline Clerics that much anymore. That means if you want a frontliner, Barbarian is probably now the character you want to play. If you play a buff ball frontline comp, definitely pick Barbarian. That's why I think he's amazing and deserves amazing tier as well. Then we have Bard, and Bard goes with Cleric into super strong tier. Again, as always, if you want to play buff ball, you need those two, or Wizard. You could also play Wizard, Cleric and Bard, but I think Bard and Cleric are probably the most strong classes in trios. They have always been for a long decade. They're always the best comp if you want to play a rush comp. It's just not frontline Cleric, it's now healing Cleric that you would play in combination with probably a Barbarian or a Wizard. Definitely super strong both classes. Then we have Fighter, and Fighter goes into playable but not insane. Just for the sole reason, like in duos, I think he's worse than Barbarian. You can maybe put him into amazing, but I just don't think that Fighter is an amazing class in general. At least not for duos or trios. He doesn't do the same as Barbarian does. He's of course a bit tankier, but he dies to any magic in frontline. So I think he's just inferior to Barbarian, and that's why he's playable but not insane. He doesn't deserve amazing in trios for me. Now we have Ranger again, and this time Ranger is a bit better, I think, because if you play a ranged combo like double Warlock Ranger or even Cleric Warlock Ranger or Wizard Ranger Warlock or something like this in combination, I think Ranger could be really good. He's still not amazing or super strong, but in those type of combos he could definitely see play. The only real place Ranger can shine at the moment is in a trio ranged comp in trios, I think at least. Then we have Rogue. Rogue is amazing. Nothing much to say about it. Same for trios as for duos. He's a really good class. He can't use his kit as good anymore as in solos, but if you're a decent rogue player or a good rogue player, you can still make a lot of space. You can flank, you can kill, you can take one out instantly, which makes your fight almost won. Rogue is really, really good, amazing class, but not as strong as in solos. Warlock definitely super strong. The amount of comps you can build as Warlock and the amount of builds you have as Warlock is insane. You can play Torture Mastery Warlock still, you could play Life Drain Warlock, that way you can build full true magic damage, you can go Edgy Warlock, you can go Plate Warlock, you can go Frontline Warlock, you can go Backblame Warlock, and everything works super good. He is good in almost every comp, and every comp that is ranged evolves around Warlock. There's not much you can say about it. Warlock is definitely super strong. Then we have Wizard, and here Wizard shines again. I would put him in amazing because he works so good with Bard and Cleric. Now the Cleric heals again. You can use Wizard as a frontline caster, which just fights the whole team fight and has the backup from his Bard while Cleric heals him in the battle. You're also good against buff ball. I think Wizard is really good if you are a good team. You have a high skill expression in your team. You play with Bard and Cleric, or you play buff ball with Bard, Wizard and Barbarian. I just think those two comps are really good for Wizard. He can show how good he is. He can cook whole fights. And I think Wizard is an amazing class in trios, but only in trios. We have Druid, and I think Druid is trash in trios. I don't know what you guys think. I might be wrong, but every time I fight the Druid team, the Druid either lands a good trend or a wall, and that's also the only thing he does. He has no impact for the fight. He has no fighting power at all. The healing is far worse than it is from a Cleric. He does nothing than running away. I feel like Druid is a giga dogshit class in trios, and I for sure wouldn't love to have a Druid. I never played trios with someone who goes Druid, because I think the class is useless in trios. Maybe he's playable for some if he goes Strength Druid and at least one-shot someone, but in my opinion, every other way than Strength Druid is just useless for your team. Just pick Warlock or Cleric and you're far better than any Druid is probably. So I think Druid deserves I'm trash in trios. I might be wrong. You can correct me in the comments if I am and tell me the good sides of Druid in trios. Definitely not as good as any other class in this list. That was it with my trio tier list. my solo tier list and my duo tier list. I hope you enjoyed it. This is after patch, and see you on the next one. Goodbye.